Imagine this. You've been planning your dream vacation for months. You've booked your flight, packed your bags, and you're ready to take off. But when you try to board your plane, the airline staff asks for your visa. And then the worst happens. They tell you that your visa is not valid and you can't fly. You're stuck at the airport, your heart sinking. You wonder, how did this happen? I thought I had everything ready. This scenario is a nightmare for many travelers. But it happens more often than you might think. And it could happen to you if you don't understand how airlines check visas before boarding. What you'll learn in this video. In this video, we're going to clear up the confusion about visa checks at the airport. You'll find out whether or not airlines check your visa before you board, what rules apply to you and your travel situation, common mistakes travelers make and how to avoid them, how to make sure your visa is in order before you fly. By the end, you'll know exactly what steps to take before your international flight, so you can avoid that panic at the gate and enjoy a smooth journey. Main explanation section. Do airlines check your visa? Yes, airlines often check your visa before you board an international flight, but not always in the way you might expect. Here's the breakdown. Airlines are responsible for making sure you have the right documentation to enter the country you're traveling to. If you don't have the right visa, or if your visa is expired, the airline can deny you boarding. This is because if you arrive at the destination without proper documentation, the airline may be held responsible for paying for your return flight. Who does this apply to? This generally applies to travelers heading to countries that require a visa for entry. If your destination country has visa requirements, the airline will usually check if you have the proper visa, especially during check-in and boarding. For example, if you're flying to the US, India, or Australia, the airline will check if you have the correct visa before boarding. Who is exempt? Not everyone will be checked in the same way. Citizens of certain countries don't need a visa to enter some destinations. For example, if you're a US citizen traveling to many European countries, you don't need a visa for short stays. In such cases, the airline won't need to check for a visa. Additionally, if you're a permanent resident of a country, you might have different entry rules, and the airline might not check your visa, especially if you are traveling to or from a country where you're a resident. Common misunderstandings about visa checks. One of the most common misunderstandings is thinking that your visa doesn't matter until you get to immigration at your destination. That's wrong. Airlines are responsible for ensuring that you have the right visa before boarding. Another misunderstanding is assuming that a tourist visa will automatically let you enter any country. This is not true. Some countries require additional documentation, such as a work visa, student visa, or special permit, depending on the purpose of your travel. Real-life examples. Let's consider two travelers. Example 1. Sarah is flying to Canada from the UK with a tourist visa. At check-in, the airline asks for her visa. She presents it, but the airline finds that the visa is expired by a few days. Sarah is denied boarding and must reapply for a new visa before she can fly. Example 2. Tom is traveling from France to the United States with his valid visa. The airline checks his passport and visa at check-in, and he's cleared to board. However, when Tom arrives in the US, immigration officers ask him more questions. He passes the immigration check and is allowed to enter. Common mistakes section. Here are some common mistakes that travelers make when it comes to visa checks. 1. Not verifying visa requirements early. Some travelers leave the visa check until the last minute. They assume that their passport will be enough to board the flight, only to realize they need a visa at the airport. How to avoid it? Always check the visa requirements for your destination well in advance. Don't wait until the day before your flight. Some visas take weeks to process, so give yourself plenty of time. Not double-checking visa validity. Another common mistake is not checking the validity of the visa. Even if you've been issued a visa, it might have an expiration date or restrictions that you overlook. How to avoid it? Before you travel, check the expiration date of your visa. Some countries require that your visa be valid for a certain period, such as 6 months after your arrival. Make sure you are meeting this requirement. Assuming visa rules are the same for every country. Just because you didn't need a visa for one country doesn't mean you don't need a visa for another. Each country has its own entry rules. How to avoid it? Look up the entry requirements for each country you plan to visit. Even if you're connecting in a country, make sure you meet their visa and entry requirements. Not having all supporting documents. Some travelers focus only on their visa, but forget that other documents may be needed. For example, some countries may require proof of accommodation, return flights, or even a medical certificate. How to avoid it? Make sure you have all the required documents when you check in. Always refer to the official embassy website of your destination country to find out exactly what's needed. Failing to check airline visa requirements. Every airline has its own procedures for checking documents. Some airlines are stricter than others, and they might check your visa even more thoroughly. How to avoid it? Review your airline's requirements for entry to your destination. Some airlines even have a dedicated page for visa requirements on their website. Relying too much on third-party visa assistance travel agencies and visa agencies can be helpful, but they sometimes make mistakes. How to avoid it? Always verify visa information directly with official government websites. Don't rely solely on third-party services. Special Situations section, connecting flights. If you're connecting through a country that requires a visa, you may still need to show proof of a valid visa, even if you're not leaving the airport. Some countries require a transit visa if you're changing flights in their airport. Dual nationality. If you hold dual nationality, for example, you are both a Canadian and a French citizen, be careful about which passport you use. Some countries may require different visas for different passport holders. Expired passport. If your passport is expired, you won't be allowed to board the flight. Make sure your passport is valid for the required period before travel. 6. Step-by-step action plan. Here's your checklist to ensure everything is in order before your flight. 1. Know the visa requirements. What to check. Research if you need a visa for the country you're traveling to. When to check. Start your research at least 2 to 3 months before your trip. Where to verify. Always check the official embassy or government website of the destination country. 2. Verify your visa. What to check. Ensure your visa is valid and covers the full duration of your stay. When to check. Check your visa as soon as it's issued, and again just before you travel. Where to verify. Review your visa for validity and any entry restrictions, such as must enter within X days. 3. Make sure you have all supporting documents. What to check. Make sure you have all additional documents, such as proof of accommodation, return flights, or travel insurance. When to check. Double-check these documents a few days before your flight. Where to verify. Always refer to the embassy or consulate. Guidelines for your destination. 4. Confirm airline policies. What to check. Ensure the airline knows your visa details and the country's entry requirements. When to check. Check with the airline a week or more before flying. Where to verify. Visit the airline's website or contact customer service. Prepare for immigration control. What to check. Be prepared to answer questions about your travel plans, accommodation, and finances when you arrive at your destination. When to check. Before you leave for the airport, review your travel plans. Where to verify. Again, check the embassy guidelines for specific entry questions. Final warning/important reminder. Before you board, double-check everything. An unexpected problem at the airport could throw off your entire trip, and it's best to avoid last-minute surprises. Keep your travel documents in order and don't rely on anyone else to double-check for you. Strong closing. Now you're ready to avoid any visa headaches before you board your international flight. By staying prepared and organized, you can avoid stress and have a smooth travel experience. If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe to get more travel tips and share this with a friend who's planning their next international trip. Safe travels!